Okay. Now we're going to go back to the share screen. We like to record these so that folks who aren't able to attend can watch them later. So this is sort of our part two to that, so that you can uh, to talk about lobbying. And we're really kind of building towards the Mountain Mamas Lobby Day later this year. We generally hold it late March, early April. We haven't set that date yet, but we'll keep you informed if you're interested in participating. It's a super fun day, and we'll talk more about that as we go. But this is an important time for us to make changes at the state level to impact laws that can clean up our air and ensure our kids have a healthier climate than they're going to at this point. And also, so it runs from January through the early part of May. And this is an important component of plugging into that effort. So today I'm going to talk about, sort of broadly speaking, what is grassroots lobbying. I'll take you through, through the process as if you were sort of leading a lobbying effort or a lobbying meeting. And then we'll talk more specifically about what our lobby day looks like, because it's a little bit different. It's a little shorter, a little more condensed. So I don't want anyone to get overwhelmed. We are not going to ask you to do all of these things, but I think it's important for folks to kind of have a good sense of what lobbying entails. So first, let's start, what is grassroots lobbying? Really at the crux of it, right? It's convincing somebody, any kind of lobbying is really convincing somebody to vote in favor or opposition of a bill. It's about the power of ideas, of course. It's you making a better argument or a better impression, putting more pressure on somebody than your opposition. And stories are an important component of those ideas. We'll talk about stories a little bit in this session as well, because it's really about like the feeling and that you leave somebody with, that you leave a lawmaker with. We can share a lot of facts and figures, but if we're not connecting them to a real life situation or a real life person, that is, going to leave less of an impression, because lawmakers are hearing lots of facts and figures. The benefit of grassroots lobbying is it's really everyday people talking to lawmakers, as opposed to paid lobbyists that are, paid by industry or organizations that have a position. This is our ability to kind of collectively come together and impact somebody's vote. But lobbying can be many different things. I think we often think about like meetings are where lobbying visits happen, or like, side conversations. But it can be emails, it can be calls, it can be, reaching out to your elected official over social media. Twitter has traditionally been a good place for that, although things are changing, of course. It's not even Twitter anymore. Probably should update that. Giving testimony at the Capitol in committee hearings, which is something that we are often will be asking folks to help out with. And then, of course, in-person meetings or our lobby day. So our role as Mountain Mamas at the Capitol is really to build grassroots support for our issues, and to put moms in the room and at the table where these decisions are being made. And your role is to help be that voice. So we are a nonprofit organization. We are a nonpartisan organization. And that means that we don't take positions in elections. We don't endorse candidates. We don't have a political action committee that donates money to candidates. We are really issue-based and advocacy-based. And so when we go down to the Capitol, sometimes we aren't super well known because we haven't been advocating or because we haven't been involved in the elections. That can have kind of pros and cons. So during election season, we reach out to members or to candidates and do issue education, and so that they know who we are and they know which issues we care about. But as we all know, money and volunteers are what help run, win elections. And so our job is to we don't have that advantage, I guess, as some other organizations may be giving money or helping drive turnout for a candidate's election. We don't have that relationship with them, and so we need to work really hard to get people in front of them through lobby days, emails, calls. Our voice is in the number of moms that we can help turn out for these sorts of advocacy activities, so that they can hear us. The benefit of us not participating in elections is that we don't participate in elections. We aren't a partisan organization. We can talk to a Republican as easily as we can talk to a Democrat, and we don't have that sort of stigma of like, you didn't support me during my campaign, so I'm not going to support you now. These are just sort of the realities of our political system that we have to factor in when we're talking about lobbying. And so just wanted to make that clear, that that's really what our role is here with Mountain Mamas. So why is, can anyone tell me why grassroots lobbying is important? You can just take yourself off mute and throw out an idea.
Helping them, we're helping politicians understand what the community thinks.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. They are hearing from paid lobbyists and policy experts all day long. And they really need to hear from their constituents and people that live in their communities about how these laws will impact them. And lawmakers, especially at the state level, are actually really interested in hearing from us. It's not like we're bothering them. They get very excited when they hear from constituents. So it's an important component of the process. So we're going to go into kind of the basics of a lobbying visit. And then we'll talk again at the end about our lobby day. So really the bulk of the work happens before you even go into your meeting. It's a lot of preparation to make sure that you're ready for your meeting. So you want to make sure that you understand the issue that you're talking about. And I don't mean that you need to be an expert on the policy. You don't have to be able to answer technical questions about a bill, but you should understand the basic intent of the bill, and what the bill will do, and importantly, how the bill will impact you or why you care about this bill. And being prepared also to answer some questions that you might get. You're not going to be able to anticipate everything, especially if they're going to ask you technical questions that you're not an expert at. But that's okay too. You do not have to be able to answer all those questions, but making sure that you feel confident going into this meeting that you can talk about this issue intelligently is important. You want to make sure you research your lawmaker ahead of time. So let's see, I don't think this is going to let me click. I didn't have this hyperlinked, my apologies. So I'm going to show you just real quick our state website where you can go and find your lawmaker. If you go up to this button that says Find My Legislator, you can type in your address and it will tell you everything. It will tell you about your, who your state, this is for the state, who your state senator is and who your state representative is. And from here, you can go in and see who, this is my Senator Rachel Zenzinger. You can see, which committees she is part of. That might tell you a little bit about what issues she's more interested and engaged in. You can see her occupation is in education. So even though she sits on committees that aren't education, education is a big issue for her. You can see all of the bills that they're sponsoring or have sponsored in the past. You can look at voting records. So if you wanted to find a bill that is similar to your issue, then you can see how she voted and get a sense of what she might how she might feel about the bill that you're talking to her about. So important to know, again, who you're meeting with. Make sure you know which party affiliation they are, and and I think it's helpful too to go to maybe their campaign website, and they'll talk about what issues they ran on, just to give yourself a sense of are they going to be friendly or not? What do they care about, and are there areas that we can make a connection on? Oops. Also, it's important, as I mentioned earlier, to think about, what is your story? Why do you care about this bill? What's the human side of this issue for you? Is it that your child has asthma and you're worried about the air that they're breathing and that you're dealing with, trips to the emergency room? It doesn't have to be dramatic like that. It can also just be you're tired of being up all night because you're worrying about climate change, or your kid has climate anxiety and you can't figure out how to help. And there's any number of ways, right, that we're connecting to these issues, but figuring out how to humanize that for them is really important. Make sure you have your talking points. If you're going with a group, figure out who's going to speak and who's going to say what, so you have a game plan. One person should be facilitating the meeting and helping keep people on task so that you stay on time. Make sure that you keep it concise. You'll likely have 15 minutes to 30 minutes at the very most. So you got to make sure you get it, kind of get in and get out. And then make sure you have some kind of handout or fact sheet to leave with them. Again, if you were working with us, we would be doing all of this work. But if you're doing it on your own, these are the things to keep in mind. Any questions on the prep? Cool. All right. During your meeting, introduce yourselves and your organization if you're with one. I think it's always a great idea to start off with a thank you for their past votes. If they have voted for something that you support, it doesn't even have to be, linked to the issue that you're working on. And if you can't find if they're not very supportive of things, just find something nice to say to them. But obviously, just thanking them for meeting with you is always a nice way to start things off. Always be polite. You're not always going to be talking to the friendliest people. Sometimes you're going to talk to somebody who's not, having a great day or whatever, but just remember that they're human too. And we should always be polite, even if they're telling us no, or if they're being rude. And sometimes when you're meeting with staff people, they can be a little bit rude if they're not on your side. But generally speaking, by and large, I've very rarely had anybody be rude or unkind in a meeting. Most of the time, they're on their best behavior. Make sure then you'll kind of go through your agenda, right? You're using your talking points. Everyone's sharing their stories. You leave your fact sheet. Make sure you leave time to get to hear from the lawmaker. Don't spend the whole meeting with you talking, because the important part is hearing what they have to say. So you want to make your point, but you want to make sure you leave some time to hear from them, see if they have questions or concerns about a bill. And then really you want to get an answer if you can. Will you support this bill? Will you support a changed version of this bill, or oppose it, whatever your position is. And sometimes that can be a little tricky. They don't want to necessarily commit, but as much as we can not let them get away with that, we want to try and get a commitment. If they ask questions that you don't know the answer to, that's fine. Just make sure, let them know you'll get them that answer. And that's a really good opportunity also to follow up with them to say, hey, I got the answer to that question you had. And by the way, does that help, shore up your vote? it's always fun to get a meeting after, or a photo after the meeting. You can post that on social and use that as like an accountability measure. Thank you for meeting with me on this issue. I appreciate your support, or or whatever. We hope you'll support our issue. That's kind of it. Like, that's really, sometimes they're quick and to the point. That's kind of the long and the short of the meeting itself. Once you're done with your meeting, always follow up with a thank you email, reminding them of what you talked about. Include that fact sheet, so they have it electronically. Any information that they asked for, or questions, try to include that. And if you don't have it yet, get back to them later. And then always make sure you ask again if you didn't get an answer, or confirm their commitment to whether they said they would vote for it or not. And continue the conversation. Obviously, like, it's one meeting, but these bills can take a while to get passed. And so staying in touch with them, make sure that you follow what their vote is, and thank them if they voted in favor, or let them know you're disappointed if they didn't. And so that's the basics of the prep, the meeting, and after the meeting. And I will pause there and see if there are any questions so far. Okay. I'll just assume I'm covering it all. Oh, go ahead, Angelique.
So the bills that are being brought, that would be lobbied for, are they ones that Mountain Mamas is creating, or are they ones that they're backing, they're wanting to stand behind?
Yeah, good question, Angelique. So we have not put forth our own bills this year. Typically, we work in coalition with a lot of organizations that have policy experts, and so we are typically, we will sort of choose what those issues are, 3 to 5 issues that we think are really important, and prioritize those and support those. So so we haven't put anything forth ourselves. Good question.
Has that never happened, or just not something that's currently happening?
Yeah, typically we have not. Potentially in the future, we may consider putting something forward. But yeah, we just, we're moms. Like, we aren't policy experts. And so yeah, we're kind of looking to other experts to write those policies, and then we kind of prioritize our work from there. But potentially in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I understand it better.
Yeah. So just wanted to kind of talk quickly about what our lobby day will look like. As I mentioned earlier, we typically hold it in late March or early April. It's in the morning. We try to get there a little bit before 8. So we have some time to do a training. So we'll have a light breakfast. We'll do a full training on the bills that we're going to be lobbying for that day. And we'll send out information ahead of time, so you have time to look at it too, so you're not hearing about it for the first time. But we want to make sure we're walking you through the ins and outs on those bills that morning. And to be honest, like, it's a little bit last minute because of the way things move down at the Capitol. So, something may come up and we're like, oh, we got to help on this bill. Like, so sometimes things change a little bit, but so we will make sure to give you a good training and understanding on the bills. We'll break into groups. So if you come down and you've never lobbied before, you will be with a team leader that has experience lobbying, and you won't be by yourself. We will pull people after the training. We'll go up to the lobby, in the House and the Senate. They have a lobby area, and that looks out over the floor of the House or the Senate. And the way it works in Colorado is you put in a card or a piece of paper to request a member come out to talk to you. And then they come out and talk to you. And, you know, our group will have a conversation with them for like 3 to 5 minutes at the most. We'll have our bills, we'll have our fact sheets to give to them, and we'll be kind of rapid fire going through things. We'll have that conversation, you know, there'll be yes or no, or I have questions. So it works similarly to like one of these longer lobbying visits, but it's really condensed. And then we'll pull out the next person. And the thing that's really exciting about this point in the session, late May or early April, is things are they're a little bit hectic, you know, there's like, it's getting towards the end, they're running out of time. We usually work on very controversial bills. So like, there's always people to shore up their votes. So we're talking to the moderates. It's a really impactful day. It matters, especially during this time. So if you can make it, it's really fun. And you learn a lot. You get to see like how the sausage gets made down there. I already said that. So just a huge plug to please think about coming to our lobby day this year. I know it can be a lot of a heavy lift to come on a work day or a weekday in the morning, but we hope you'll consider it. And if not, there will be other opportunities as well. You know, as I mentioned, it's phone calls and emails and testifying at committee hearings. And so there's lots of opportunity for us to engage our lawmakers otherwise. Any questions on our lobby day? Or anything to add, Jen? I know we have 1 minute.
No, I think that was fantastic. Great breakdown. Like you said, the lobby day is a very condensed version of that, where we're trying to show a lot of support in a short period of time. So numbers really help with that, having a lot of folks show up.
Kids are also welcome to come. We will either provide care, childcare, or you can bring them up to the lobby. Oh, thanks, Allison. We had some young kiddos come to our lobby day last year, and it actually created this buzz, and people were coming out that we hadn't even asked for and wanting to talk to us. So babies and children are always welcome at any of our events, but particularly lobby day is a lot of fun. Okay, let's see. I've just one quick thing left. The Colorado Environmental Film Festival, we're going to be tabling at that at the end of this month in Golden. If you are interested in helping us with at the table, let me know. You get to watch the films for free if you are a volunteer there, or if you're if you're already going, just come and say hello. We'll be there doing petitions for Jeffco and Clean Air and a public lands issue. Our next meeting is March 6th at 12:30. We always do this the first Wednesday of the month, and we'll probably be covering some of the bills that we're going to be prioritizing this year. So it will be another interesting meeting, and hopefully you can make it. So with 1 minute over, if you have questions, oh, go ahead, Angelique. I see you off mute.
Yeah, I was just going to ask a question. I have work alongside with some youth organizations that work with youth groups. So I'm wondering, like, what are your thoughts about maybe inviting, if I might be able to invite a couple of those youth to this lobbying day?
I think that would be, yeah, let's talk about that. I think that would be really interesting.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be happy
to
stay on a little bit and find out about that.
Okay. Yeah. And actually, Angelique, I have a call right after this, but maybe we can set up some time. Can I email you?
Yes, that'd be great.
Awesome. Okay. And I will send that to you, Amy. I see I'm going to get you all that information. So thank you all so much. Sorry we ran a couple minutes over, and hope to see you next month, if not before.
Thank you very much.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.